Bueno y Shaloy on Diogenes, have you heard Abby's wet pussy lips fucking you yet?
What is wrong with you, Zed? Jesus Christ.
No, she's got big wet pussy lips. She can't wait to fuck your dick. Diogenes sitting in a tree. Kissing. First is the labia, then it's the clitoris. Soon it'll be the entire uterus. Abby and Diogenes sitting in a tree. Kissing. First comes the pussy, then comes the clitoris, then comes the entire overall uterus. Welcome, Ashish. How are you, Ashish?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm wonderful.
Very good.
Do you live in India?
For the moment, I'm not.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Doha, Qatar.
Oh. Well, God
Where
bless.
are you now?
I'm in Chicago.
Okay. Where are you from? You're from America?
Yeah, I'm from Chicago. My best friend growing up, his name was Ashish.
Oh, that's good. Cool.
He's in the diamond business. He does
wonderful. Where he from?
Chicago.
Chicago?
Yeah. He's a Sony. Last name is Sony.
Okay, very good.
Okay, well, God bless you, Ashish, and I hope you make it a great day, okay? Or a great evening, and congratulations on your great journey.
Thank you so much. God bless you too.
So yeah, and he explained things to me like Sesame Street way, and so that was easier for me to understand, not like with these super big words and da. It's like, okay, so this guy came and he said this, and so it's like, yeah, it was very easy for me to understand. It was really enjoyable.
Migzag, can Isa study Kabbalah?
What do you mean?
Because technically, I guess it's against the Jewish law for you to study Kabbalah. But since you're not Jewish, I'm wondering, how does an Orthodox Jew view outside study of Kabbalah? I mean, I know Mixed's just going to be like, sure, just go ahead and read whatever you want. What are you doing, Isa?
Right now, I'm printing some papers. I'm working on a project. I just want to have some background noise. And I'm looking for some rugby photos, some hot guys that I can use in my document. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm working today.
I'm about to go to my wage cage, and I have to prepare for a presentation in a couple hours, but...
Yeah, me too. I have a call in about an hour, but I think I'm just going to keep on bullshit because I haven't really done what I needed to do. I'm running out of time. I am managing this project, but I have been completely irresponsible over the weekend. But I'm going to work today like until late in order to get this first draft done. So I'm going to tell them, I'm going to lie today. I'm not proud of it, but I need to gain some time.
Well, you should always just tell the truth, and then that will move things along quicker than... Because the saying is, if you can say it, it is not true. And I do that all the time, but I just admit how lazy I am, and then it seems it's then therefore I realize all communication is hypnosis. If you sound like an asshole, you're gonna be perceived as an asshole. But you know, as long as
Yeah,
is
but I cannot tell them that I'm just being lazy because I'm charging them a shitload of money for doing this, and
well, I
I
see
know
what you're
I
saying.
can get it done, you know, in like a record time. But I am charging them, so I'm charging them like I don't know, for like 2 weeks job, or yeah, the 2 weeks and a half job. I'm charging them like close to 20,000. And I know I can get this done in like 4 or 5 days, you know, but I don't want to give that impression because otherwise they will be like, oh wow, I'm not really doing all this time. So I mean, I know my work is worth it, but yeah. So it's just about managing the, what do you say? Managing the
Expectations.
the perception as well. Yeah.
Monsignor, that was a pretty interesting room you were doing last night with the Catholic analysis.
Me?
No, Monsignor was playing some type of a
Ah,
recording
Monsignor.
with our good friend Rabbi McDickerson, aka Fat Life.
We almost played a debate between, it was with Jay Dyer, but a friend of ours debated him.
See, that is so Catholic in terms of obsession, or
I'm sorry.
that I don't get the feeling like, well, I guess it's just the question of the debate, which is essentially two Catholics debating each other, right?
Jay Dyer is Orthodox.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, yeah, that's interesting. I was reading the other day that, or I heard somebody say that the Orthodox Christians are technically like advanced LARPers when it comes to like sigils and magic. That, you know, the whole Russian Orthodox and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is based off of like ancient medieval Kabbalah and magic, and that's why it's very different from.
Medieval?
Yeah, I would say so.
Really?
Like, look at the history of the Slavs and what they had to go through, and how they still are Christian or in the church or playing Christian. I'm just saying that, you know, when you see these guys dressed up in their huge black frocks with all their weird sigil stitchings, they're definitely trying to. It's the same thing as Hinduism. It's the same thing as Buddhism. It's the same thing as Judaism. It's just their way of doing it, and it's the chanting is really awesome. But every religion and every culture has their awesome music. It does not matter where you are on the planet. You will find awesome music. That's a fact.
I agree. Music is wonderful.
Well, I'd like to dedicate this song to Issa, and myself, and Mixed, and Monsignor, and Govani, and Shubham, and Rich, and Johan, and Jonathan. This is making awareness great again. Raboina Shaloim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Only reason I say that is because there's a story in the Zohar where this little kid comes up to these rabbis, and the mother's like, why don't you want to talk to these rabbis? And he's like, they haven't said Shema yet, and I know that, you know, they're unholy, they're unclean, I can't talk to them until they say Shema. So the rabbis are like, what the fuck? How did you know this? It's a good Zohar story.
That is amazing. Oh, shit. I'm sorry that I am barely paying attention. Anyway,
Well, if you want to do a quick Kabbalah study, I'll give you 10, not 11, 10, not 9 seconds of my time before I run back to my other office and start my work day. Do you want to hear?
what is an express Kabbalah study?
I'll give you a tarot card or I'll read you a Zohar.
Oh, I would love a tarot.
Okay. Okay, this is the priestess. Keywords: moon, access to intuitive powers, healing, independence, inner equilibrium, increased self-confidence. The priestess is represented by the moon goddess Isis. She is surrounded by a fine network of light rays, an expression of her spiritual nature. Her essence is unrestricted independence. She is in touch with her intuitive abilities and can trust them completely. She perceives and is connected with her own inner voice, the internal guide and healer. This shows outwardly in her trust in and responsibility to herself. Like the camel which can travel long stretches in the desert without water, you, when you have discovered your own inner spring, also radiate a satisfied sense of self-sufficiency. You find fertile oases, flowers and fruits at the bottom of the card, in the innermost reaches of your being. The more you accept yourself and share with others, the deeper the clarity of your perceptions will become, represented by the crystals. In this deck, the princess is one of the strongest cards for balance, equilibrium, and harmony. The upper half of her body expresses the feminine receptive. This is accented by the upward swinging lines and the upward pointing crescent moons behind her head. The crown is the moon which receives light from the sun. From the navel down, her body expresses the male principle. The lines are straight, dynamic, direct in purpose. The bow and arrow in her lap accentuate this concept. The priestess can indicate extrasensory perception and intuitive abilities such as clairvoyance, telepathy, creative visualization, empathy, intuitive knowledge, and healing powers. These abilities arise in harmony with and in service to the ultimate cosmic laws. Indications: you now have access to your intuitive powers. Develop them more fully. Guard your independence. Question: are there areas in your life in which you allow others to influence you rather than trusting your own intuition? Suggestions: seek out water as often as you can. Meditate near water. And learn from it as much as you can. Affirmation: I trust my intuitive abilities.
Methinks you doth protest too much.
Okay, that was the priestess. That's essentially Shekhinah. The Shekhinah.
Shekhinah isn't the priestess.
That's the pawn turning into the queen. That's the Shekhinah.
No.
Some say Shekhinah, some say Shekhinah. Shekhinah, 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 Shekhinah. Potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
Well, do you know what a shwa is?
Do you know what an ich and a yuck is?
I wasn't trying to like trap you. It was a genuine question. I don't know if you know what a shwa is. Do you or don't you? A schwa is a half syllable. Good example would be the sound in syllable before like L. It's a half a syllable. And in Hebrew, there's a symbol for it. So there's nothing like incorrect about saying Shechina or Shechina.
Which L?
Sh is just announcing the shva. It's called a shva na, meaning a pronounced shva, versus a shva na, which is a silent shva.
Which L
Which L?
in syllable?
Um,
Or both
How many syllables would you say are in syllable? 3?
Syllable. 3, yeah.
Syllable.
There's
The
more of a syllable in the O part than
what's a good
there-
example of a schwa? Oh, I don't know. Let's find a word that uses a schwa. English word. Word
Fusta!
was. Yeah, no. Like, okay, so the syllable in problem, the second syllable, they give that as an example of a schwa. In English, it's just sort of like a getting from one sound to the next. In Hebrew, there is a delineation between it being silent or pronounced. Like at the beginning of the word start, there's no delineation between the S sound and the T sound. In Hebrew, that would be acknowledged with the schwa, and it would be a silent schwa. Because you could technically call it start. Right, that would be a pronounced schwa, whereas start would be a silent schwa. Which is why you get shechina and shachina.
Well, what do you make of what Rabbi Abahu said when he wrote, "The soul breath directs and trains the human being and initiates him into every straight path"?
I probably wasn't alive at the time that he wrote that.
What does it mean when Hashem wrote, "All the families of the earth will bless themselves by you"?
I don't know. But it does feel kind of like today.
Well,
Everyone
that's
seems like they're fighting to be a descendant of Abraham.
oh, you're such a Talmud Chacham, Rabbeinu Shalom.
Yeah, I mean, like a blessing by your name is to say that like an association to Abraham would be a good thing, would result in blessings unlocked for the world.
Like I said, what's the most famous magic motto?
Abracadabra,
There you go. What's the root word?
Avada Kedavra.
What was you just said? You know, everybody wants to be associated to Abraham. Is abrahadabra not essentially tied up into Abraham?
No, it's Aramaic for saying.
It's phonetically sympathetic. You're being intentionally obfuscating and difficult here, Rabbeinu Shalom. I'm talking about your symbol in your PTR, the sigil that you bear in your PTR. Your family crest, for God's sakes.
Not a family crest. I found this on the internet. I have my own family crest.
Ooh, a family crester, excuse me. You are so bourgeoisie, it's unbelievable. You're a dandy. You are a dandy.
Yankee Doodle Dandy, to be precise.
God, you are funny, bro. You're a talented guy, man. You are a true fucking lawyer. I mean, you could work in any industry. I mean, somebody should make you a CEO one day.
I wouldn't take the job of a CEO. I mean, like, I like working on creative projects, but CEO is the guy who's like, I don't know, the one who cares the most or is gonna bring it to product. Like, I'm a Larry David kind of guy, right? I want to sit there on the side and say it's a bad idea and then just be justified all the time. I like to help, but I don't want to run the thing.
Do you know Larry David's story?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I'm not like an expert.
Well, he got out of Vietnam because he stuck his hand down the crack of the back of his pants and ate his own shit in front of his drill sergeant.
That sounds like him.
He's a clown. And one of his funniest stories is when he was working at SNL, he got so angry with everybody, he stood up and he said, "I quit. Fuck you all. I hate you all. I'm leaving. I'm quitting." And then he showed up the next day. He was, thought he was fired. Instead, everybody's like, "Oh, hey, Larry."
And then the other thing is, he quit Seinfeld and then he started basically Curb Your Enthusiasm shortly thereafter because he's like, I can't stop. He's like, I'll have to make the show about myself this time. So basically, as opposed to playing George, he just, Curb Your Enthusiasm is technically really just his life in LA. And that's one of the reasons why I moved to LA because I loved Curb Your Enthusiasm so much. And, I lived there for 5 years. But my point is Larry and like the way that he filmed Curb with the ad lib and having the script and just kind of walking around LA and filming themselves. I mean, it's still a tremendous amount of work because in that town, everything you shoot, especially like with HBO and all that stuff, you have to have permits. Everything is highly controlled and let alone it's a whole cast, it's got a budget and it's kind of like the upper echelon of creating, content, obviously. But I'm just saying that in terms of Los Angeles and Hollywood history, everything new, in my opinion, is just going to have to be a regurgitation of like everything from the 80s and 90s. And the will or the desire to try to create something new is very difficult, almost impossible or completely unnecessary. So like if, you were ever the head of a Hollywood studio, I mean, you would basically pick the best stuff from your catalog. But whatever happens, McZed, do not recreate Dinner with Andre. I never want to have to fucking see that movie ever. I hope it never gets recreated and put back into the theater because I can guarantee you James Franco and some other cocksuck will make that stupid fucking movie and I'll be like, McZed, remember that conversation? Remember?
Zen, I have something to report and another recommendation for you. There is a very famous network TV show by the name of Community, which was showrun by Dan Harmon. Chevy Chase was on it. Famously, he quit, exploded on the set. Donald Glover got a bit of his start there. They have one episode, which is a very clear homage to My Dinner with Andre. And I know, My Dinner with Andre was a bad recommendation. You hate it. If you hated My Dinner with Andre, you will enjoy this Community episode. I recommend that you watch it again.
My Dinner with Andre is a fantastic movie. What happens is that people that are intellectual don't understand it.
And I like my blanket. I like to be warm with it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I actually have had full topic conversations about all the topics in that movie. And eventually, like, what happens is that people that are not introspective, such as my friend Zen, they get uncomfortable at some point with the monthly reasoning.
It's a difficult movie to watch. It's hard to stay into it. It took me a few times to get through the whole thing.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
It's not my favorite Wallace Shawn movie.
Yeah, he's not as good as that as like his good parts. But it's just such a weird gem of a movie because it breaks all the rules of cinema. It's just two guys talking, and they create a theater of mind, and it's strangely compelling.
Yeah.
It's very much what's it called? It's a Waiting for Godot kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I felt that Waiting for Godot didn't have as much substance as this. Waiting for Godot was more poetic, because this one was kept within the grounded realism of two friends telling their story. But still, bonkers. Love that movie. And I love that Zen gets so pissed off I recommended it to him.
I'm being so facetious. I understand the appeal of that film.
No, listen, don't let us bully you into pretending there's meaning in the movie. If you genuinely see nothing and bullshit there, that's what's really there.
No.
I
Look,
like the effect of the movie on me when I watch it.
that's fine. What I'm saying is, in my kitchen, I have a painting of I guess it's not. Maybe it's Da Vinci's. Anyways, it's The Last Supper with Christ at the center, and he's looking down, and he's very peaceful. Meanwhile, all of his disciples are arguing, And I look at that picture, every once in a while, and my point is I generally ask people, what do you see in this picture? And from an iconography or a symbolism, I just view it as a clubhouse room. Like that Last Supper was a clubhouse room. And Jesus is the only one, and again, he's at the center of the picture, but his contentment, his joy, his peace, his acceptance, his surrender, he's the only one in that picture who is satisfied or is content and at peace. So, I don't know what my point is with that story, but basically what I'm trying to say is History of the World by Mel Brooks, and basically every Mel Brooks film is as good as it's ever gonna get. It's not. You can't make it any better than that because it's on real film. It's real actors. It's really worked on.
It's really what you saw when you were a kid.
It's real in the sense that
It's
authentic, and so everything now that they create.
You, because your childhood feels different than your adulthood, but the same will be true for kids and their kids and kids.
Well, that's true. That's true. Well, then that's.
Yeah, it's always going to feel like everyone feels like at the end of history, kids today they're awful. They don't remember what it was like. I walked to the internet 15 miles both ways.
No, what I'm saying is that's the beauty of a film from the 1960s like Mel Brooks, where if you have kids when they're 15 or whatever age you want to show them a Mel Brooks film, they're going to still get that incredible ecstatic joy. That's the incredible thing about film, which is a little bit. This is why, talking about Seinfeld or Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm, is those are not complicated shows. But look at how Curb and Seinfeld have probably generated for the cast, billions of dollars. So, because they got a sweetheart deal. There's a whole backstory to that too, how the cast got a syndication rights, and they were like, anyways, you should look at. Anyways, it's just an incredible miracle story of success. And it's all hypnosis, because communication hypnosis is all communication is hypnosis.
So let's discuss that opening. Remember how in Dinner with Andre, they asked Andre, or he's telling the story about how they asked him to come and write plays again? You remember the opening?
Maybe. What are you referring to?
Yeah, so Andre's telling Wallace Shawn, he says, they asked me to come and write plays again. I'm retired. And the guy said, well, what is it going to take for you to start writing plays again? And he says, well, hold on, I have it right here. It's very interesting to analyze, what he's saying.
Right, because that is the ending line, right? He said he was going to write again?
Yeah, he says, if you could give me 40 Jewish women who speak neither English nor French, either women who've been in the theater for a long time and want to leave it, but don't know why, or young women who love the theater but have never seen a theater they could love, and if these women could play the trumpet or the harp, and if I could work in a fourth, I'd come. And so the guy responded and said, well, 40 Jewish women, that's a little hard to find. But he said, I do have 40 women. They all pretty much fit the definition. I also have some very interesting men, but you don't have to work with them. These are all people who have in common the fact that they're questioning the theater. They don't all play the trumpet or the harp, but they all play a musical instrument, and none of them speak English. And anyway, if you analyze just that one line, that back and forth, you realize that the guy offered him exactly nothing of what he requested. And yet he went to Poland to start writing plays again.
I wouldn't say that he offered him nothing of what he asked.
All right, let's do this, because I've done this one before.
All right, just a minute.
You should probably read the screenplay. I can probably send you a link so that you can.
You know what I really love about this is that I am filming this and remaking Dinner with Andre and making it even better right now. And you guys are unaware of the fact that one day people will watch all my movies and they'll say, wow, he really trolled Dinner with Andre really good.
Okay, I think you're interpreting it differently. I don't think he gave him nothing.
All right, well, let's go list by list. I'm going to give you the categories of what he wanted in order to come back and start writing screenplays.
Yeah, 40 Jewish women
Yes. So he didn't get that. We know that. He definitely didn't get 40 Jewish women.
He didn't get 40 Jewish women, but he did get 40 women.
Well, no, because he said he had men too.
No, right. He said that he had enough people, and he also had men, but you can focus on the women if you want.
Okay,
He didn't say the exact number of people, right? So we don't know if he had like 80 and there was enough of the 40 women, or if
later he confirmed it was 40 people in a forest. So he
40
did confirm
people,
that.
and some of them were men and some of them were women.
Yes.
Okay, so
He said they can't speak English nor French, but the guy said none of them speak English.
okay, so some of them spoke French.
Well, we don't know that, but I'm just saying, like, just think about the counter offer. He said,
Right.
he what I'm trying to say, here's what I find interesting about this thing, is that he basically created the most specific demands so that essentially he wouldn't have to go and work again.
Right.
And the guy tricked him through wordplay and, like, convincing, right? Because he said, like, I don't have these things you want, but I have these other things.
That's what I'm saying. Like, okay, within the context, some guy is asking someone for a favor. The guy responds with a crazy ask, right?
Yeah.
Like Rolling Stones, Green, M&M's request for the dressing room.
There you go.
And what's interesting is that he responds correct, not giving him exactly what he wants, but responding to each one of the requests in some capacity.
But
right?
he said they pretty much fit the definition.
Exactly. Right? Because what he's talking about is this weird impression of theater, right? Because what is he really describing when he says the 40 Jewish women that have an experience with the theater or no experience with the theater and now have very strong opinions about the theater? He's asking for a group of people that are invested in the theater and somehow dissatisfied. That's like the sum total. And he's like calculating that and saying, I've got this, right? Meaning it's sort of like it feels to me like every producer's conversation or every director's conversation of this is the vision, some great ethereal idea that exists within this artist's head. Here's reality. Let's see if art happens. Right? He's not telling him, like, you must do it, you're contractually obligated because you made that offer and I gave you such a great counteroffer. He's saying, this is what I've got. Do you think you could get close to what's going on inside your head? And that's the thing. Because it was inside his head, like, you guys are calling it a manipulation. I say that, like, with that offer, that was an insane offer. He was already nuts. This guy just gave him the closest chance he has to make real his crazy vision. How could he say no? He's got nothing better.
There you go. I've never had anybody quite describe it like that, but that's why I find the movie interesting.
Yeah, like, meaning, if we accept people at their word, we would, like, say they were crazy all the time. But what's weird is if you take them, like, you pull them from their ideas into reality, there are strange arts that are produced. And that's what they were, like, illustrating, I think. Like, he was being obstinate and ridiculous and avant-garde, and he was showing how, like, the art world can sometimes facilitate that. And we just don't know, right? What is the result of that crazy project, real or imagined, other than this conversation that we watch? And, like, that's mostly what it is. Just, like, conversations about some weird project I did one time.
Well, you know, you have to also look at it as they're trying to recreate, and that whoever wrote Dinner with Andre, they're creating an inauthentic reality in the sense that have you ever sat down with somebody and nothing is ever going to be okay, you know, for that person, or they're always going to be stressed out because, in my opinion, all communication is hypnosis, and people deny that fact. They think that there's something else to it to get success, but communication hypnosis is the definition of how you can independently create success outside of the government, let's say. And Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld are perfect examples of that. And Jerry Seinfeld is a transcendental meditationalist. He does mantras, he lifts weights, so does Larry David. All these people came out of the 1960s and they went into meditation. And for them, just recording or coming to that conclusion that all communication is hypnosis, you basically stop wasting your time. on useless discourse. I mean, and that means listening as well. So I just looked at Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld as being like gurus, and and Dinner with Andre is a demonstration of that same principle. Even though I dislike the movie because it's frankly the conversation itself is, I think, extraordinarily boring. I can't remember anything in there that like piqued my interest. Even like I could go to a black clubhouse room, and that Dinner for Schmucks is more interesting than that Dinner for Schmucks. It's really not called Dinner for Andre. It's technically Dinner for Schmucks. And remember, did you see that movie? I told you to see that movie, Dinner for Schmucks, because it deals with hypnosis. There's an employee at the IRS who is a hypnotist, and Steve Carell, who works with him, brings this Hollywood executive to look up his girlfriend's this and that. Anyways, it's an incredible movie, and it's called Dinner for Schmucks. It's with Steve Carell. It deals with brain control, mind control, hypnosis. It's very funny.
But most of your broadcasts are more boring than Dinner with Andre.
I know, that's my point, is that it's all pointless. I mean, if you want to watch a movie or a television show that's any good, I mean, it's totally edited. It's all cuts, if you've ever paid attention to cuts. There's something in a cut which makes it commercially substantial, in the sense that without the cuts, you see what I'm saying? It's not really a created product. Live streaming, if you go to YouTube, this is the crazy thing, and you click on live stream now, you can scroll through live streams in the same way that you would scroll through content, but you only scroll through lives of people all around the world. And so technically YouTube is going to be, or already is, the de facto television of the world. So in terms of global communication and like what that means for future world events and live streams and all that stuff, it's like we are entering into an advanced age of communication of extraordinary hypnosis, because you think the independent producer has some kind of actual advantage here. You do not. The mainstream media will continue to be the dominant form of hypnosis in the new communication paradigm, which is basically YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. So, I mean, what I'm doing, is really pathetic, and probably no one will ever care or notice. But I don't know. This to me has been an incredible observational study, and I have a lot of, to me, when I scroll through it and I watch myself, I can't stop laughing, because there are moments with things that I do and say or hear things on this app which fucking, is great content and is very funny. And you could strip mine Clubhouse of its best intellectual property and deploy it in real commercial creative endeavors if you're a fucking macher, or if you're actually part of the business. I'm just telling you, Clubhouse is full of information, which is the greatest commodity in the world.
He's not a macher, though. He's a Kohen.
Yeah, I know who Michael is.
A macher just means like a maven, like a important person. A Kohen can be a macher.
Okay.
The macher is the guy in the community with all the money. And anyways, that's the whole quote from Wall Street where Gordon Gekko says to Bud Fox, he goes, Bud, in all my years of this industry, I've never found any commodity more valuable than information. So information technology is communication technology, which is concepts, or really a form of hypnosis. And I think sacred scripts or citations from certain documents or whole books.
IP is artificial.
Well, what I'm telling you is you can do
The reason he's identifying IP as being the most valuable thing is because it is the most secured, in that it is protected by the U.S. government for no particular reason, and it's not an exhaustible good.
No.
You're really just like bullying people
No.
who would be having ideas without you being around.
No, Gordon Gekko is referring to insider information. And so Bud Fox goes into the garbage and retrieves documents about
Yeah, it's debatable whether or not insider information really exists.
Exactly. So Well, that's the thing. I mean,
What's wrong with trading insider information?
Well, because what's the difference between insider information and information?
Right, exactly. And why wouldn't you want your broker to know everything about a company?
Oh, obviously, I, as the trader, would want my broker to know more about the company than the other person. The question is, why should a random schmo that works at the assembly at McDonald's not be permitted to trade in the stock? Why can't you capitalize off of that?
well, it's just disclosure laws, and it's like signing into Clubhouse now, essentially. And so it does come down to enforcement.
Get violent.
Anyways, we don't have to go down that is a fascinating topic, but when you look at the prosecutions for recent insider trading and stuff, it's a lot of Indians
Well,
who work in these mega
That makes,
corporations.
that makes a lot of sense, actually. But it doesn't matter. Insider trading is like also difficult to prove. Like people try to do it anyway. In the information age, they might be able to detect it better, but historically, it's always been difficult to prove because you have to show that was the reason you did it rather than one component in many factors of your genius as an investor. Which is why usually when you see someone getting in trouble for insider trading, it's because of perjury. It's because they had more information than they told you when they first investigated you, and they got you to give them a bunch of false answers under oath.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about Congress's record in trading on the stock market?
What about Congress? Oh yeah, they trade on the stock market.
Yeah, and they like do better. Like Nancy Pelosi has done better than like, some of the best traders in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, of course.
There's a hedge fund now that their entire trading system is based on analyzing, following congressional trades. And
That's
I think
what I like about capitalism. Every time someone pulls an angle on them.
it's like a 30-day disclosure or something. So they try to like get the data as soon as possible, then immediately place the trade, I assume, or analyze. See, that's the thing is you don't have to analyze it.
Speed nowadays.
Like Pelosi bought call options on Google, which was disclosed like a couple months ago, and everybody, followed that trade, and it has paid off. Google has, Anyways, you could spend your whole. Do you know, Mixed, do you know Mark Rice on this app? He's running for Congress here in Chicago.
Yeah.
He, he used to work at Goldman Sachs. He's a former hedge fund manager and financial advisor, and I've done a lot of stock trading and analysis, and he told me one day, he's like, you do realize that it's still just a job, right? And I was like, yeah, fuck. Like, even if you're a gambler or a trader, it's still just a job. So what do you think about the word job and job? I mean, is there sympathy there for those two terms being, associated or slightly associated?
I don't know the etymology of job.
Well, I think all three-letter words are connected, meaning that they all refer back to God.
It says it's unknown. Mid-16th century, but they don't know where.
Well, think about what your job really is. If you are a part of an organization.
Wait. Here's one theory I found on Wikipedia. Etymology 1, from the phrase jabba of work, piece of work.
Yeah, it's a job.
Perhaps
Like
related
a
to Middle English jobbin, to jab, thrust, or peck, or Middle English chop, piece, or bargain.
Jobbing,
Job.
gigging, gig. Anyways, my point.
I don't think there's a connection between job and Eov.
Oh, Eov is the Hebrew name of Job?
Yeah, it gets to a J with like the Latinization stuff. It's like Aleph Yud Vav Vez, Eov. But say that to an Italian and they're going to say job.
So do you know who Daniel Matt is out in at Stanford? He does like Kabbalah lecture series.
No.
So he has this whole thing on Elijah. And, now everybody's fascinated with Elijah. What do you know about Elijah in terms of like sainthood or divinity or stories of Elijah? Because the whole mystical, occult, esoteric, philosophy apparently with Elijah is, I don't know the story of Elijah that well, and I didn't do his last lecture series, but to me, it's a hypnosis. When I listen to this guy, Daniel Matt, and he goes into the Zohar and he's talking about the Shekhinah and all this stuff. It's like, to me, it feels like gnosis, which I think is hypnosis. So What I'm saying is when you listen to somebody lecture about, mystical Jewish esoteric philosophy, it ends up to me putting you into a trance state.
Well, I mean, according to you, everything puts you into a trance state. All communication. Which is another way of saying you only want to be inside your own head.
Well,
I also think silence is good, right? Also within your own head. That's the trickier bit. Like, you could wash out everyone else by talking or listening to what they're saying. The big trick is being silent. I would say, like, the things you're identifying come more out of silence and a recognition of the Shabbos. Like, long conversations about nothing. What do you think Jews do every Saturday?
no, I mean the internal monologue or the ability to be aware of the value of going silent internally, I think is, essentially another state of mind or a state of consciousness which you need to be aware of. But really, when you're looking at a computer and you're staring at a screen and you block everything else out, you actually are engaging in a hyper-focused hypnosis every time you're engaging in document creation, email creation, reading, learning aids, etc., things like that. So, from that regard, I'm talking about data uploads or data gathering in which you're encoding and storing in your subconscious mind. So I'm just saying there's a natural state of hypnosis which occurs, minute to minute based on your activities. But in terms of propaganda or mythology or iconography or essentially God consciousness, which is essentially peace mind, I mean, my whole house is filled with symbols, hopefully of peace, whether that's my physical house or my psychological house, my actual brain. That's the problem with a lot of toxicity on this clown house is toxicity just, I don't know how people break that chain of toxicity and get back into like therapeutic listening as opposed to engaging in useless discourse because I mean, god damn, if you go into these black rooms and you consider what meditation is and silencing the mind and you listen to what people are screaming, but let alone if you listen to what people are listening to, it's like, fuck. I mean, what is going on, in a lot of these people's lives? Like, it can't be good. I mean, anyways, I'm just saying that all communication is hypnosis.
I think communication is tricky. It's part of how people think. That's why it's hypnosis. We're inviting people into our minds.
In his own head. More neuroticism is really what he needs.
What do you mean more neuroticism? What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm saying that John comes across as neurotic to me.
No, but like, what is more neuroses? I mean, like, neurotic would be.
Yes, neurotic would be.
Neurotic would be where your own internal thoughts compel you to action.
Correct.
I mean, to some degree, I'd say we're all neurotic and anxiety driven with like the phone.
That's what I meant. Anxiety is really what I meant.
Right.
And he's anxious, and so I'm saying like if he's always trying to do this hypnosis thing where he's trying to get in his own head, does he really need more anxiety than he's already exhibiting?
No, I'd say maybe that's partly the hypnosis, meaning like if we have internal anxiety from like our own senses of things we ought to be doing, hearing everyone else about their anxieties is a way to minimize our own, right? I can't hear my own when I'm listening to others. But what we're suggesting is that are you saying in your own head? Well, I guess that would be escaping your own head, right? You're trying to control your own head by inviting in voices. And what we're suggesting is maybe what you need is a sustained, focused silence to allow your mind to process whatever it's trying to avoid thinking about. But I guess, I don't know, it's weird in the current day. Because, like,
Well, this is why I do.
meditation can make you anxious nowadays.
This is why I've been doing self-hypnosis on this app for years now, because this is the poor man's app for talk therapy or self-hypnosis. It doesn't cost anything to come on here and read Zohar or read books on Kabbalah or read books on Zen Buddhism or any kind of psychotherapeutic philosophical information. People aren't reading books on this app, and so I've been doing it for years. I've been filming myself doing it for years, and so I do have faith that my mind is fully, I've uploaded a lot of data into my brain. It's sitting there below the threshold. I can't recall a lot of it except for a few quotes. But my point is, I've been trying to cultivate a consciousness of God within my psyche, within my mind, within my soul, within my heart, within my spirit, etc. That type of a thing where I am seeking enlightenment and liberation. And when you go into black rooms on this app and you listen to what they're talking about, there are some like Holy Spirit type, rooms where they are sitting there talking about God. And like I was in a room yesterday with this black kid, and they were like, "You saying you Jesus? You saying you the Messiah?" And man, they talked about this shit for hours, and it was like a fierce rate. That type of room is kind of a healthy room, but still they're not actually reading information. So they're not really uploading, downloading. They're still just doing useless thought formation, useless opinion creation, and stringing sentences into sentences and trying to be civil, but also trying to do a clout chasing. It's like a dance between birds in the jungle. You see what I'm saying? We're making noises and sounds on a friendly audio chat where you can't get punched in the face for acting the fool or claiming that you're God. So it is a unique, audio experience for the listener, but also for this speaker, because so much of this is all just in the mind's eye. I mean, there are people in fucking wheelchairs on this app, bedridden. You see what I'm saying? So like this whole app is a simulation. It is like a mini LARP, or essentially it's like a LARP club, but really it's the Dinner for Schmucks, or it's essentially Clown Town or Clown House. And that's the way I kind of can surmise, what Clown House is.
Well, if we're all birds, then I'd say you're a toucan.
Well, you're Pepe the Clown, I mean, it's a fact, dude. And I've kind of documented it, and I will admit my own clownship. You can call me Bozo the Clown. I mean, I think everybody has a secret clown name, but people are unable or unwilling to actually admit that.
Who on this app would you describe as an eagle?
An eagle clown?
You said we're all birds.
Yeah, clown birds.
You mean like Angry Birds?
No, I'm just saying that a bird is a good metaphor. It's the perfect metaphor, but I mean, you know what's his name? Plutarchus Epaminondas?
Yeah, he's not on the app anymore.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I see him on Instagram. My point is, he lives with a bird.
Yes, he does.
That's not an easy thing to do. I lived with 4 birds once, and I eventually gave them away because they don't shut up.
True.
So I had to get rid of them because they were driving me crazy. And, oh, God. But I have birds that live outside my house, and I love listening to them because you never really kind of hear the same sound twice. Birds are aware of variables, and when they communicate with each other, they don't repeat themselves, or they do, but they're always adding variations. It's like it's incredible listening to birds, communicate with each other. It's incredible. And, that's the thing is like so many people on this app, I don't think have ever even sat and listened to birds, chirp and try to like actually really see if there's some kind of meaning or repeat back, like how, anyways, I'm just, you get what I'm saying. I'm sure there's books on bird communication.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that's kind of the microcosm to our macrocosm. I mean, we're really no different than birds. So if you look at communication theory and you really kind of listen to birds, you'll realize that what we're really doing is probably more bird-like than it is logical. It's
Some birds
absolutely.
are more neurotic than others.
Yeah, you make a great point. But birds are also more playful than others. I see birds fly around like so randomly, and they just seem to enjoy the air. You know, the freedom of movement, their playfulness, their pecking, their eating. Birds, you know, I think making a study of birds and, you know, really trying to free yourself in the same way that a bird is free is the type of attitude you need to cultivate in order to rid yourself of that perpetual angst or anxiety that you're talking about.
Honk.
Listen in the distance if you can hear the road ragers, you know, honking their horns in their cars. When you drive your car, you should technically be like in a complete state of nirvana. And that's the type of attitude you need to have when you drive a car, because if you don't drive with a state of nirvana, people around you won't drive with a state of nirvana. So that's the only way to safely drive a vehicle.
You turn on your Instagram live video, but I like to listen to music. I was singing Billy Joel this morning.
Yeah, I listen to music when I drive and live stream myself driving my car.
By the way, have you heard that new Billy Joel song?
No.
Turn the lights back on?
It sucks
Why do you say that, Ryan?
because I didn't like it.
It's a great song. It's because you're too young. You don't get it. It's a song for older people and thinking about moments where you could have made something right and you took your time or you showed up late or whatever, but leaving a little bit of hope there. Like, why did Billy Joel wait to turn the lights back on so after 30 years? Why didn't he write songs in between that time? Isn't that right, John? John.